Head over to BoardGamePrices.com to see the best prices and availability for thousands of games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Last year at Gencon, we saw a cool booth called Miniatures U, or MinuteMan Miniatures, and this was where you could get a 3D scan done of you, and they'll make you into a miniature that you could put into any game. And the concepts sound really cool, so I actually bought one, and so this is going to be to show you what I expected to get, what I actually got, and what the final result was, and what we had to do in order to get them like this. Now, I am not a miniatures expert, so I elicited the help of Rob Oren. He has a great YouTube channel called Rob's Tabletop World, and he is an excellent miniatures painter. He is a master and expert in the miniatures area, so he actually volunteered to paint this and take care of it for me because we're friends. And so I actually used some of his videos that he made while he was teaching people how to get through things like this in the painting world. So we're going to highlight some of his videos showing you the process this had to go through, and I'll see you on the other side to give you my final thoughts on whether you should or should not get one of these cool miniature U's. Now when you get to the booth, they had a ton of different sculpts that you could possibly select to be yours. Here's just a few of them. There was probably close to 30 different ones you could select from. And again, here's just a small sampling of what you saw. Now, of course, there's no heads on these ones, but the ones that were there actually had heads that you could look at. Now, when you look at these, you see the typical sort of gray, cleaned up miniature. And this is what I was expecting to get back, of course, with a head on it. But you know, that's what you expect when you see these types of miniatures, a cleaned up gray sort of version. They also had some finished versions that you could look at to give you an idea of what it could look like after it was painted. And of course, this person was there, which I think he might even be the owner of the company, but he was pretty much on all the miniatures and he was there. So it was really easy to see what he looked like and what the miniature looked like. And of course, it seemed like a great idea. Now, it was supposed to take 6 to 8 weeks to get these, but it took closer to 7 months with very little feedback or communication from the company after many requests, so that was a bad thing. And then also, it didn't come in that nice grayish cleaned up look. It came in this sort of whitish, clearish plastic with all of this cleanup that you need to do. Look at all those that you had to sort of cut and clean up. I was not expecting that, and the expectations were not set while we were at Gen Con that this is what you would receive. So let's listen to the expert Rob Oren talk about what state this was in when he received it.
This should not all be here. This molding is ridiculous, and how are we supposed to chip away? And then on top of it, there's no base. Now
I had ordered 2 together, one for me and one for a friend that was there, and they both came stuck together, so you actually had to cut them and separate them, which seems ridiculous.
All right, I think, oh boy, I mean, this is very brittle stuff. So cleaning this up is going to be quite the undertaking. Now, all right, after about a good 20 minutes, because you don't want to make a wrong cut, we were able to make a breakthrough and kind of got, as you can see, he has a sword here. I mean, we're trying to figure this out as you go because this is clear plastic. And again, every cut has to be precise. I mean, I've never seen anything this bad in my life. Now I'm just trying to get him off model, but his face is good enough where I think we can make something happen here.
And I figured they would come on a base, most miniatures do, but these ones didn't even come with a base, so Rob had to add one of the ones he already had.
So with these, I mean, it's just problem after problem. I took some of this stuff outside and I sprayed some primer on it, and it actually melted. So if I put it on these figures, which really don't have great detail, which I'm kind of disappointed in. So what I did is I took some Abaddon Black and used that as my primer. I went over and just got this on here, and now at least I can start working out a bit. We're gonna let this dry, and you can see there's not a lot of detail in the facial structure, which is kind of worrisome. But we'll try to work on that, and we're gonna work on pulling that out.
And after the painstaking effort Rob Oren took, here is what my figure finally looked like. All right, well there you see the process it went through. wow. Definitely different than I had expected, as you can see. Let's first start with the positives here. It is a really cool concept. You know, you show up, you look at the thing there, and you're like, wow, I could be in a game. Definitely an awesome, awesome idea. But that's the only positive here that we're going to do, because most everything here was a very negative experience. So let's go through them. So number one, the time to receive the product. Now, again, they said 6 to 8 weeks, and I got it in about 7-ish months. And, you know, it was just way too long. And so everyone was kind of going, you know, crazy and asking, you know, what's going on at the time. Apparently they had never received this many orders at a convention, and they were way backed up, and it kind of like threw their whole production model into a tailspin. There was lack of updates and communication. So you couldn't get any responses from them. You'd go to their website. There was a phone number. I called and left messages. I sent emails. I finally got a message if I directly messaged them from Facebook a while back. Some of them said, yeah, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. And then they finally gave an update like in November-ish, I think, about, hey, sorry, this is what happened. We apologize to everybody. It was a little too late at that point. Everybody was pretty much furious with them. And, you know, I actually checked, and there's actually 12 Better Business Bureau complaints against this company because of what happened at Gencon. So I clearly wasn't the only one that was upset. So there's that. There is obviously way too much cleanup needed. I mean, when you show on your website a gray standard miniature on a base, and at the Gencon booth, obviously they showed a bunch of painted ones, but they also showed some that were sort of cleaned up already. You would expect them to be that way. If it wasn't that way, and we were supposed to expect to see how bad this was when we received them, I would have never have bought it. Now, speaking of buying it, it's like $1 per millimeter. So I got like sort of the standard 40 millimeter size, and so I paid $40 for that. And then obviously to get a cleanup in a paint job like that was done, it was probably 3 or 4 times that at least it would have cost someone to do that. And so way too much cleanup, and the wrong expectations were set at the booth. They should have had samples of what it actually looks like, because I don't think even people like Rob, who's an expert at miniatures, said this was the worst he had ever seen. That this was way too much work. People like me that aren't into miniatures, that just wants a cool miniature themselves, definitely don't recommend this unless they've sort of changed their process up a bit. Now, to talk about the product itself, I'd say, as Rob mentioned, there was a lack of quality of the plastic for the paint to stick. He had a lot of problems with paint sticking because of the plastic, and as you can see, it was this weird sort of clearish plastic as opposed to that gray miniature plastic. They weren't put on bases. Again, another expectation that was set sort of by looking at what was there at Gen Con that they didn't talk about, but you have to have a base. Someone like me that just plays mostly board games doesn't have bases to put these on. Rob had to like basically take a base, an extra base that he had, and he's an expert, so he had that, but most people wouldn't expect to do that. Also, as you saw, we had multiple orders, mine and my friend Kat's, together, and they were stuck together. That just seems so silly. Like, we had to cut them apart. It just way, way, way too much work. This was not a fun project for Rob, who does this thing. And if I received it like this, and I was actually gonna be the one doing it, I would have just left it in the box and asked for my money back. Who knows if I would have heard back from them. So in the end, we were not given a realistic idea of what you would receive versus what the expectations of what they showed you are. Now, am I happy with the final result? Yes, I am. It's cool to have a miniature of myself. Luckily, I have a great friend like Rob Oren, who has a great YouTube channel that you should check out. By the way, the link to his channel is in the description of this video. Go check him out and subscribe. But I'm happy the way it turned out, but there's no way it would have done this without Rob's help, and not everybody has a friend like that. So I would recommend not buying one of these unless they have, since this, changed a lot of things. Their communication, how they do things. Do they give you just a gray miniature cleaned up on a base? If it was like that for the same price, I'd say it's totally worth it. It's awesome. Everyone should get this, and then maybe have someone pay someone to paint it or something like that. I would love to see them actually offer a service for painting so that you could get the miniature cleaned up and painted or not. Well, you shouldn't even have to clean up the miniature. But anyway, that was my experience with Miniatures U. Really take it with a grain of salt if you see it at Gen Con or any of the conventions. Ask the questions like I did. Do they still come all messed up and all, you know, you have to do a ton of cleanup, or do they come clean and you just have a nice little gray miniature on a base that you can use, painted or not? Or are there any painted options? If those things got resolved, I'd say go ahead and do it. If not, stay away. That is the Miniatures U. This has been the Game Boy Geek. Breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. The overview in this video was shot on a Watson model Game Topper. Upgrade every game you play with the ultimate gaming accessory. Game Toppers, shipping now. Check them out at GameToppersLLC.com.